CrossFaded, 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 CrossFaded. The definition of the day today is masters. So I know you've heard me talk a lot about masters on this show. We actually have a couple of videos about masters. We got the Sir Mix-a-Lot video about masters. We got a couple of videos from Steve Stout. I think one video from Steve Stout and a couple because he speaks about masters by himself, masters with another hip hop artist. My guy, I can't think of his name right now, but we got a few videos about masters. So check out our catalog on Omega Classic Records on the YouTube page to learn more about masters and about how masters are utilized in the music business. So what are masters? So I'm going to give you the business glossary term. Masters is a term used by a record label to refer to a sound recording fixed in tangible form and from which all subsequent copies of the sound recording are made. So you go into the studio, you record that song then is engineered by an engineer, it's mixed, it's mastered. Then they make copies, whether it's digital copies, hard copies by way of CD records, which are vinyl, which are coming back. Those copies are made from that original copy that you recorded that got mixed and mastered down. So you don't have the ability to make those other copies legally unless you have the original copy that was done in studio, of which the duplicated copies came from. Your masters. Masters have long been and still are the lifeblood of record labels. This is why when you sign a contract with them and they give you an advance, they hold the masters, sometimes forever, sometimes for 25, 50 years. I've heard some people say, oh, they're only going to keep them for 7 years. Shut the fuck up. That isn't how it goes. It depends in the contract. I'm so tired of people saying that because it's such a misinformation. You know, when you look and you see people like Miles Davis, who's one of the greatest blues musicians of all times, and he still doesn't own his masters. His masters are like owned by Columbia Records, if I'm not mistaken. Put it in the comments if I'm wrong about that, but I think that's so. I did a video on that, and the gentleman who's retired from Columbia now at the time was working for Columbia, and he was a upper executive, and he was like scrolling through some records at the record store and with such glee and enjoyment, because he was thumbing through a catalog of the company of which he worked for, and he was like, this is how they pay my salary, and he's thumbing through, and Miles Davis and other musicians, and he's just so excited, and it was sickening, you know. So yeah, shut up, man. You don't. Where did you get that? I always ask people when they say that, you get your master's in 7 years. Oh, then it turns into I've heard everything. It turns into what is it when it's just legal information? I forgot, whatever they call it. It turns into public domain. Shut up, man. Hush the F up. It's not how it goes. How it goes is on a case-by-case basis. It depends on what you negotiated with the company that you negotiated with and what the terms are. So that leaves every artist to be different. Every artist situation to be with other circumstances outside of what you know. All right. So your masters are very important in music. Keep them. Do not relinquish them. Do as much as you can to reserve them for your family, to reserve them for your future, Yeah, it's the most important part of the business when it comes. It's the currency, basically. It's what makes you the money. Because years down the road, who knows? Kraft could come along with a new cheese, and they're like, "Hey, we want your song, the song you made, the song about getting a lot of cheese." And then, next thing you know, your song about stacking cheese is in a Kraft commercial, and little white kids is in there bobbing to your song. So your masters, man, it's your lifeblood. It's absolutely what will survive you. And look at today. Look at how a lot of artists are selling their masters at the ends of their careers. They've gotten astronomical fame. Some of these guys that are selling their masters now, they've done tremendous numbers, and now they're turning around and selling their masters. People like Lil Wayne sold his masters for like 100 million. Irv Gotti, we've done a video on that recently. He sells his masters, which include, Murder Inc.'s top artist at the time, Ashanti, Ja Rule, and ain't no telling who else on the label. He turns around and sells the masters for a $200 million deal. Was it? 100 million was in credit for him to do a TV show and some other TV ventures, of which he owns all of the creative output of. And then the other 100 million was for the masters itself. So yeah, tons of artists have done it, and done it recently, and it's because they've made millions of dollars off their masters inside of a 10, 20, 30 year period of time, and now they're selling them outright and getting ready to retire. So if you're going to sell your masters, then make sure that they put the right price point on it. Make sure that you're not getting gypped or ripped off. Sell them down the line, 200, 300, 400 million. It's very possible one song could make your masters valuable. One song, and somebody could want your whole catalog. If nothing else, the masters for that song. So, masters. We're gonna go over to the comments. CWK has chimed in. What's up, CWK? Omega, you're the truth. I love you. Much love to you, man. Love you to death, brother. I know a certain label that owns your masters, even when you leave the label. That way you can't re-release anything. Ooh, you can't re-release anything you did with that label. It's so sad and pathetic. Wow. Ill Will Hayes, that's securing their legacy. You are correct. Both of y'all are correct. So, I don't know about the label you're talking about, Chris, but it is pathetic, is what I'm speaking to as being correct. And yeah, that's sad. Most labels use that tactic. It's a tactic where they want to, bind you in. This is how the labels make their money. The labels will essentially take about, we'll say in a year, you can say they'll go and shop about 20, 30 acts. Okay. So they'll go get these 20, 30 acts. They know 90% of them are not going to make it, but yet and still they'll go ahead and put the bet on all of them. They'll give all of them a $100,000 advance or whatever in terms of their circumstances. So, you want to do a single? Well, here's an advance for a single. 50,000, 40,000. We're going to do an album or two albums. Then you start getting into the 200,000, 250,000, 150,000, whatever. You know what I mean? The labels will give you that up front. They now have the masters in whatever terms that you've agreed to with them, and then you go to work, and hopefully you go platinum. And if you don't, then guess what? The other 29 artists that they signed that year, they're going to get one of them to go platinum, and that one is going to foot the bill for the majority of the ones that they signed, if not all of them. That's how that works. The labels work on a total crapshoot kind of situation where it's all about numbers. That's why they don't care about your art. They're usually working numbers and algorithms, and we're going to sign 29 artists. And if we get one of them to do gold, one of them to do platinum, we footed the bill for everything else, for all of the other ones in the equation. And then guess what? Those other ones in the equation that we signed that didn't make anything or they never came out, we're going to keep their masters anyway and shelve them. And that way they can't go anywhere and do anything else, at least with this album. In some cases, they even keep your name. Look up 2 Chainz as an example of that. 2 Chainz, formerly Titty Boy, had to change his name to 2 Chainz because when he left, he had to leave the name behind as well. So that's why you got Titty Boy transforming into 2 Chainz. So, yeah, man. Masters is everything. Masters is your life. You're as a musician, it's what you're in the game that's going to survive you. It's what you're in the game providing that survives you. It's your thumbprint. It's your currency. So remember that. Crossfaded, 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 crossfaded.